Did you know that NYX Cosmetics was actually named after the Greek goddess of night? Welcome to the Cosmetic Chronicles, the podcast where history meets beauty and tells the amazing stories behind some of the world's most notorious brands. I'm your host, Sarah Carvalho, and I'm a beauty journalist who has been obsessed with makeup since my first swipe of mascara. In this episode, we're covering NYX Cosmetics, the makeup brand that helped create department store quality and on-trend cosmetics at an affordable price. As always, we're going to start with little Sarah's story. I didn't use NYX Cosmetics probably until 2013 or so, and it wasn't even one of their most hyped products at the time. I went and bought their setting sprays, and we'll get into this in the episode, but a setting spray wasn't really part of a makeup routine until the mid 2010s, I'd say, because we were starting to create our makeup steps, routines around what we were seeing professional makeup artists do over on YouTube. So I went out and bought the NYX Professional Makeup, as it's technically the full name, NYX Professional Makeup Setting Spray in both the dewy finish and the matte finish. And again, something I hadn't even really thought of at that time. And it became, I think, the first setting spray I ever bought. So that was my introduction to NYX. And it wasn't until probably more recently I've started to actually buy more of their products consistently. Their lip glosses, their lip liners were actually recommended to me over on Instagram for being really high quality and super affordable. And I actually prefer them to like the MAC lip liners, which I know are like industry favorites. So we'll obviously talk a lot more about the products, but I would say that I'm just now getting more into the NYX products, and I am going to talk about them over on my Instagram as well. I'm wearing the Buttermelt bronzer today, which became an instant favorite the minute I put it on my face. So I'll be doing a full face of some of their iconic products over on my Instagram. So definitely go check that out. And as always, we'll talk all about their iconic hero products later on in the episode. But for now, let's go back to the beginning. NYX Cosmetics was founded by Toni Ko, a Korean immigrant who moved to the US with her family when she was 13. She didn't speak any English at all, entered the 7th grade, and became exposed to the beauty industry because her parents ended up establishing a wholesale cosmetics business on the West Coast. And this exposure to the industry set her stage for her eventual rise within the beauty space. In lieu of college, she decided to help manage the family business until she was struck by the initial idea for NYX when she was only 25. Here's a quote where she talked about how she came up with the idea of NYX Cosmetics. Quote, I saw a gap in the market where I would go to department stores and see all these high-end brands like Estee Lauder, MAC, etc. They were beautifully packaged, very elegant, very chic, very high-end. And then when I went to drugstores, back then you had to burn a black eyeliner for it to work. The red lipstick wasn't really red when you put it on. The eyeshadows were sky blue. I really saw the difference in quality, and I wanted to close the gap between the two. End quote. Now, I didn't mention what year it was, so I want to make sure that's clear. This was in 1999, so she's completely accurate with drugstore quality. I can say I was alive during this time, young children, and I completely agree. The quality of drugstore is nowhere near what we are seeing today. We're so lucky now that we can get super high quality products at affordable prices, thanks to brands like NYX. But it was really hard to find good quality eyeliners and lipsticks. And not only that, but more than just a few shades. And nothing was really quite on trend of the time. I'd say the closest you ever got was Wet n Wild, but there really wasn't anything where if you wanted to be on trend with the times that you could buy at a drugstore. So in 1999, at the age of 25, Toni received her initial seed money from her parents. This is the conversation she had with her mom. I'm going to quote Toni here. Quote, I worked in the family business for close to 10 years back then. During that time, they didn't pay me. I lived at home. I was under an allowance. And once I left the family business, I was actually just going to get a job. But I realized I had a passion to start a business of my own. I don't know. I just casually started a conversation with my mom. I was surprised to see my mom write a check. She basically just said, if you fail, it's better to have that experience when you're young. Those were her words. End quote. So with this seed money, Toni decided to start her new cosmetics company with pencils, mainly because it was the 90s where the chocolate lip liner was all the rage. Plus, she knew a guy. So the company launched with 6 color eyeliners and 12 lip liners, each priced at $1.99. These sold out in 30 days. Here's a quote from Toni about this early success. Quote, "It was such a huge success because no one had seen anything like that. Everything that you bought from drugstores looked so gaudy. I took out all that gaudiness and had black packaging with a simple white logo. Once it was introduced, people went crazy for it." End quote. And for the first few years of running NYX, Toni only sold directly to makeup artists and professional beauty partners at trade shows. She would sell wholesale to distributors who were then selling on to retailers, and some of those retailers were actually selling 50 pieces a day. She was also working entirely on her own. She was the only employee of this company. She built NYX into a multi-million-dollar business overnight. In its very first year, the company generated $2 million in wholesale revenue, which is about $4 million in retail, all while she packed boxes, made deliveries, and ran every part of the business herself. Quote, "I did R&D myself. These other cosmetics guys, they were old men. They were in the business to make money. A lot of them couldn't tell the difference between a lipstick and a lip liner." End quote. She began adding more products to the line, like lip glosses, lipsticks, and eyeshadows, and she was very specific about what she wanted to create next based on her own research and also these conversations and relationships that she was creating with the professional makeup artists at these trade shows. And she really wanted NYX to be something that professional makeup artists used, but also had it be at an affordable price so that people could actually afford to buy a lot of them and be able to play with makeup, have them be an affordable, accessible option for everyday consumers, but wanted the quality to be the level of professional makeup artists. So from 2000 to 2006, NYX entered what would be its foundation building years. So this was before the rise of digital media and influencers. And so Toni grew the brand a more traditional way through the trade shows, those relationships with makeup artists, and also a reputation for delivering those professional quality products at an affordable price. So they kept expanding beyond the liners, introducing a wider range of color cosmetics that attracted artists and beauty enthusiasts looking for highly pigmented, trend-driven products without the prestige department store price tag. And during this period, Toni still remained deeply involved in nearly every aspect of the business, helping to establish NYX as a cult favorite within the professional beauty community, and then laying the groundwork for what would become the brand's later mainstream breakout hits. Also, you have to keep in mind in 2008, we had that economic crash, which really forced shoppers who maybe had previously spent hundreds of dollars on department store brands have to seek drugstore alternatives without sacrificing quality. So they ended up discovering brands like NYX. And it was those discoveries, those kind of alternative discoveries that definitely helped NYX. But I'd say also another little thing known as beauty YouTube made quite an impact. NYX's biggest breakthrough wouldn't come from a traditional retailer. It would actually come from a platform that barely existed when Toni started the company, YouTube. Here's a story of how 2007 specifically drastically changed the course of NYX's future thanks to digital media and the rise of the YouTube influencer. Here's a quote from Toni. Quote, "In 2007, YouTube was one of those newer social channels. Back then, makeup artists started to use YouTube to post video tutorials showing how to use the products they bought and really liked from beauty supply stores. All of a sudden, lots of young girls were being exposed to NYX. In fact, there was one item that we were going to discontinue, a white-colored jumbo eyeshadow pencil that had a slight texture to it. Seemingly out of nowhere, this product started to sell at a very high quantity. In the beginning, we weren't sure why. Shortly thereafter, we saw that YouTubers were using our product as an eyeshadow base. The product wasn't even meant to be used this way. It was meant to be an eyeliner, but the makeup artists liked the texture. When they spread it out on the eyelid, it held pigments very well. And because it was white colored, when a vivid color was applied on top, it showed a true pigment color. The messaging and sharing was owned by our consumers. When we observed what was happening, we jumped in by supporting it. We seeded our products with fans who had their own channels. We would send out one lipstick, and they were so happy that they would, in turn, support us by making 10 videos. If one video was seen by 10,000 people and you multiplied that by 10 videos, we quickly got to 100,000 views. Now multiply that by 10 of our fans and bloggers all doing the same thing, and not just for one product, but for lots of them. The impressions that came at effectively no cost were priceless, end quote. So basically, she knew the value of YouTube very early on, and just people who genuinely already liked the product were some of the best marketing tools that the company could ask for. Instead of trying to control the marketing message, being like, this product is only meant to be eyeliner, what are you doing? NYX instead chose to mobilize their current fans and encourage them to share their thoughts and feelings and how they like to use the product. And this turned out to be far more powerful for the brand than any other marketing initiative they could have come up with. Activating the base as emotional owners who are invested in the brand became the key to NYX's communication strategy then and still to this day. During this YouTube boom, Toni knew that to build NYX into a mass market brand, she needed to have her products get into a mainstream store. So she set her sight on Ulta Beauty, which at that time in 2007 was not the huge store that we know today. It was actually just a mostly Midwestern chain that had about 200 or so stores and was known for being a less pricey Sephora. So she decided to go to Ulta and run a test run of NYX in 2007 and 2008. And it tested so well that by 2009, NYX had 6 feet of space in each store, which is completely unheard of at the time. Then, when Ulta eventually partnered with Target, the brand got an extra boost of mainstream traffic. And as a result, they actually had to ramp up their e-commerce operation to handle all of the demand that was coming in. And then in 2010, HCP and Company, who had been an early investor in NYX, ended up taking a majority stake in the company. This investment gave Toni additional capital and business expertise from some of these investors as NYX entered a major period of expansion. HCP and Company principal Jim Bland ended up also joining the company's board, and this action set in motion a plan to eventually sell the company within 5 years. And by 2011, the scale of the growth was really becoming clear and was not stopping anytime soon. NYX was celebrating its 12th anniversary that year, and the brand at that point had expanded to more than 1,900 SKUs and was selling in more than 40 international markets, including through Ulta, and more than 10,000 beauty supply stores in the US, 12 years after they started. And the company was also beginning to embrace the emerging digital beauty community beyond just the YouTube. So they created a newly redesigned website that also had a blog on it called Beauty Babble. They had an area where customers could chat, give reviews, give ratings. And they also had their own dedicated YouTube channel that featured makeup tutorials, product launches, and NYX events. It was a pretty clear sign that NYX was no longer just selling professional makeup. It was beginning to actually build an online community around it. Here's a quote from Toni during this website relaunch period. Quote, "This new website, more than ever, shows who we are as a brand. We've given our employees a strong voice on the site as they are the heart and soul of our company. We are thrilled that our customers now have an opportunity to develop a deeper connection with NYX with an easier platform to purchase the products they love." End quote. Also in 2011, the brand appointed Scott Friedman to Chief Executive Officer, with Toni transitioning to founder and Chief Creative Director roles. This was an important move because Scott had a history of growing small and medium-sized businesses into large companies, and he did that by building their brands while still preserving their culture, core values, and that indie entrepreneurial spirit. And that included still utilizing the makeup artists who were already fans of the brand and really helped solidify their place in the mainstream beauty space. In 2012, they launched their Fine Artistry of Cosmetic Elites Awards, also known as the FACE Awards. And this was something along the lines of like a yearly prom meets American Idol YouTube makeup community bash. So basically, every year, the contest asked bloggers to create a series of videos that responded to 3 challenges that NYX would set up. So for example, one year, bloggers were asked to create YouTube makeup tutorials using NYX products that reflected timeless beauty, paranormal activity, and mermaids or mermen. And 5 finalists would win $5,000 in NYX products, and the big winner would win $25,000 to spend on whatever they want. And the important part of this is not just the community and kind of this fun competition around the artistry of makeup, but NYX would also use these videos as an inspiration for new products. So seeing how people were using the products and then thinking, maybe we're missing an eye primer, maybe we're missing a highlighter of this capacity because people were using products in different ways than they imagined. And so I found a quote from Joyce Kim, who was at the time the global director of product development. She said, quote, "We started seeing a lot of content obviously generated online through YouTube tutorials and hauls, overhauls, and reviews on products where people were really talking about NYX. They're using the products in ways that we hadn't even known that people were using them." End quote. And they even took it a step further. They also directly invited bloggers and YouTubers and makeup artists to the company's headquarters in LA to consult with them directly about new products, colors, and formulas. Here's another quote from Joyce Kim about this process. Quote, "We're not asking them to give us good reviews. We're asking them to give us something really authentic and to see that they love our products or that they enjoy the color payoff and it's working. That's what's satisfying. So we want to make sure that every launch is with purpose and has exactly what a consumer is looking for, which at the end is just really great quality at a great affordable price." End quote. And with these kinds of direct insights, it makes sense that the list of hero products just kept growing. So the brand expanded into categories that were becoming increasingly important among these beauty enthusiasts and makeup artists. So products like the Butter Gloss, which later became one of NYX's, I would say, most recognizable lip products, and also their instant hit, their soft matte lip cream, also helped establish the brand as a leader in the lip space. I also want to make a quick Sarah note. This was in probably 2012. I think that they came out with the soft matte lip cream specifically. And I just want to say that is like an early cloud whipped product that I feel like became very popular recently. In like the last 2 years, everything has kind of been this like whipped cloud, soft edges, lip blush, all of it has kind of been this like cloud whipped formula. But they had this, over a decade ago. So just saying, just want to point that out there. The brand also tapped into the growing demand for professional makeup techniques with products like the matte finish and dewy finish setting sprays and HD long wear setting powders. So what this did was it gave consumers access to steps that were traditionally associated with professional makeup artists and their applications, and instead was giving us access to kind of these professional tools that you would only really see if you got your makeup done by a professional. And now we get to have it as part of our daily routine as well. In 2013, NYX reported net sales of $72 million, a growth of over 46% versus 2012. And then sales continued to record strong growth into 2014, amounting to $93 million. So they almost had $100 million in sales. And if you've listened to this podcast, you know what's coming up next. A conglomerate is about to come knocking. And knocking they sure did. NYX went up for auction in 2014, and L'Oreal, the world's largest beauty conglomerate, was the highest bidder. And here's a quote from Toni about choosing to sell the brand. Quote, "First and foremost, my goal was to build an amazing brand, a cosmetics line with superior quality and affordable prices. After that, my goal was to then build the business to sell it to L'Oreal. I always had my sights set on L'Oreal because I felt they had the best brand management and custodian for their portfolio brands. It was never my plan to build a legacy company that would be passed down in my family for generations to come. I always knew I wanted to sell my business one day. But there was a moment when I had to decide if that's what I absolutely wanted and if I would be able to handle parting with the brand. Once I made that decision, I hired an investment banker to run the transactions. I set the process into motion almost 12 months prior to the actual closing date. That was a very interesting year for me. I had a lot of leverage because the brand was performing so well. But even if the deal had fallen through, I wasn't going to cry about it. I would have continued running the business and been okay with that because I always knew that the brand's worth was extremely high. In the end, the brand had so much room for growth that it was a no-brainer for any buyer." End quote. On June 18th, 2014, L'Oreal officially acquired NYX for an estimated $500 million. Post L'Oreal acquisition, NYX leaned heavily into the beauty creator community that helped build the brand by bringing the products even closer to them. So in 2015, NYX opened its first standalone store in California, and by 2016, the brand had expanded internationally into 45 countries. L'Oreal reported that NYX's sales had quadrupled in just 2 years, driven by strong online growth and successful product launches. By 2017, NYX had more than 150 stores worldwide, with 35 here in the US alone. And the Face Awards became a major centerpiece of their strategy. Rather than treating influencers and makeup artists as traditional advertising channels, NYX positioned creators as artists and collaborators with the brand. They use the competition to help discover trends, to showcase makeup artistry, and understand how consumers were actually using the products. And because of this, by 2016, NYX had built a massive online community with more than 10 million Instagram followers. And that obviously led to even more launches that people were specifically asking for at the time based on trends. So in 2017, NYX launched the Epic Ink Liner, which was a waterproof liquid eyeliner that quickly became one of the brand's modern cult favorites. They also expanded its complexion category with the Can't Stop, Won't Stop foundation in 2018, which launched with 45 shades at the time when the industry was increasingly focused on shade inclusivity and representation. And alongside viral products like lip lingerie, the liquid suede cream lipstick, and their contouring and highlighting product palettes, NYX remained positioned as the affordable alternative to prestige makeup brands, even after L'Oreal brought it under their umbrella. So that didn't change. L'Oreal didn't change the pricing, they didn't change the quality. They just kept NYX having that same kind of independent spirit and kept it accessible. And then, of course, once 2020 hit, like much of the makeup industry, NYX faced challenges as the consumer behavior shifted away from traditional makeup categories. Basically, people weren't really going anywhere. They weren't really doing full beats to go to work. Everyone was on lockdown. But also, this was the rise of the no makeup trend. And fewer consumers were wearing full face makeup for a bunch of reasons. And traditional beauty routines slowed during this time. And this really forced pretty much all the brands to rethink how they were connecting with their shoppers. So NYX decided to respond by continuing to focus on their digital first launches and also staying on trend, something they were known for. The brand leaned further into categories that performed well online. So that included brow products, skincare inspired complexion products, and easy to use everyday makeup. So they came out during this time with the Bare With Me Concealer Serum and the Brow Glue, which not only helped bring NYX into more routines, because if you were originally looking at NYX as being a very high pigmented color cosmetic line, you probably weren't going to go to them for your brows. But now they had products for people who maybe didn't want full beats or maybe just didn't have that kind of makeup style. Now they were available to more people based on what they wanted to do with their makeup. But also, you have to remember, TikTok was starting to come alive during this time, and NYX was being introduced to a new generation of consumers. So in other words, NYX really found a second wave of relevance by returning to the strategy that had defined the brand in 2007. And instead of relying primarily on traditional advertising, NYX once again benefited from the beauty culture that was happening online, just this time through TikTok, not YouTube. So virality became the name of the game, and Beauty TikTok was ready to showcase NYX's strong lip game to a whole new audience. In 2023, they launched their Fat Oil Lip Drip, which was a glossy lip oil hybrid that tapped into the resurgence we were seeing of a high shine lip and very quickly became one of the brand's biggest modern successes. The product combined the trend of the high shine gloss with the comfort of a lip oil. Everyone wanted the skincare makeup hybrid, and so this lip oil kind of met both trends at the same time. And then the following year, NYX doubled down on what was happening virally as well by releasing the Duck Plump. This was a plumping lip gloss that became really a major cultural moment on its own, thanks to a Super Bowl ad campaign featuring Cardi B. Then they kept going with their lip products. They saw that people were craving them, especially over on TikTok. So in 2025, following the success of the fat oil, they continued their return to the lip category with the Lip IV Hydrating Gloss Stain. This was another product that was designed specifically around the beauty trend. So TikTok was bringing glossy lips back, but K Beauty was starting to make its appearance over here in the US. And what people wanted from lip products at this time were formulas that combined hydration, lightweight texture, a sheer color payoff, but also long lasting wear. And seeing all those things at in one product seems impossible. But K Beauty had already proved it could do it. So NYX decided, let's try to make our own version of it. So Lip IV again tapped into both trends, the gloss, the shine with the staying power of a stain, delivering a hydrated high shine finish while leaving behind a tint as the gloss faded. And this product really just reflected NYX's continued ability to translate evolving beauty trends into accessible products that people also really just enjoyed. And the success was recognized when in 2025, it won a new beauty award for the best lip stain. The brand also expanded on its complexion category with the Buttermelt collection, including the Buttermelt blush and the Buttermelt bronzer, products that were designed around highly pigmented but blendable textures that performed well in short form content. Now, this is really important. An instant look in an instant is basically what short form content is all about. And so NYX was ready to perform by bringing these products to the market that could easily be shown on a reel, a YouTube short, a TikTok. Within a few seconds, people could see the impact of it without needing to stick around very long. So that is, we have short attention spans these days, but NYX was ready to perform. And now, nearly 27 years after Toni created NYX Cosmetics with a handful of affordable pencils, we can look back and see that they created probably one of the first truly community-driven beauty brands. They started as a professional makeup company that was built through trade shows and relationships with makeup artists. And that led to relationships with YouTube creators and influencer marketing before that became an industry standard. And they later adapted that same philosophy into Instagram and TikTok. The actual fans of the brand have always had an impact on what they create, whether it's the brand sending them product to play with or having them come directly to their LA offices to give them direct feedback, whether it's the competition online or beauty blogs or their in-person stores. The consumers and the artists have always been at the heart of the brand. And by the time L'Oreal acquired NYX in 2014, the company had already grown from a small startup to a nearly $100 million beauty company, really just proving before even the acquisition that affordable makeup could compete with prestige brands when it delivered quality, innovation, and cultural relevance. Nearly a decade after that acquisition, Nick continues to show why the acquisition has made sense. L'Oreal has credited the brand's recent growth to viral launches like the Fat Oil and the Duck Plump, while NYX continues to create products that reflect how consumers actually want to wear makeup, and L'Oreal hasn't really stepped in the way. They've just encouraged it and been able to fund that growth and strategy internationally. And I'd say one of the biggest lessons from researching NYX's history is that even from day one, the brand was never just selling makeup. They wanted to sell professional quality products that artists could truly use and listen to the people that were using it. They never shied away from people using the products, even if it wasn't how they were intended. So that started all the way from the makeup artists in the late 90s to beauty YouTubers in the 2010s to current Instagram and TikTok influencers. NYX has always stayed relevant by recognizing that the beauty community isn't just the audience, it's actually the driving force behind the brand itself. All right, it's the rabbit hole of the week. If this is your first time listening, the rabbit hole of the week is a segment where I talk about some rabbit hole I fell down when I was researching the brand. And this one this week was about Toni herself and what happened after she decided to sell her brand. So keep in mind that she sold her brand for an estimated $500 million before she was even 40. So where do you go from there? I know where I would go. I would go to like the south of France and never be heard from again, probably. But Toni decided after a few beachside margaritas that she was going to get back to work. Here's a quote I found from her. Quote, "After I sold NYX, I planned to retire from work life. I thought I would sit on a beach, drink margaritas, and do nothing. But when I did that, I got bored fast. I am happiest when working on building something I love. So I started a small investment firm called Butter Ventures. The focus of the work was on supporting a passion for inspiring female founders, entrepreneurs, and future leaders via writing small checks of around $30,000 to female-originated companies. Then I made a list of categories I was personally passionate about, including food, fashion, and shoes, to inspire my next business venture." End quote. And she actually decided to go with sunglasses because she saw a similar gap to the one that she had identified in cosmetics. So in the sunglass market, it's basically just divided two camps. There's the expensive designer frames and then the inexpensive disposable options, with very little in the middle for consumers who wanted stylish, high quality frames without a luxury price tag. Sound familiar? It's like her sweet spot. And she was sure she could apply her mastery of the supply chain to the sunglasses sector. So she started cold calling plastics manufacturers. She even flew to China, where she visited 11 factories in 3 cities in 5 days. And by October 2015, she had opened a LA office for her new brand. Perverse Sunglasses launched in March of 2016 and actually debuted at the Coachella Music Festival, where it was the official eyewear sponsor. However, unlike NYX, Perverse did not reach the same level of mainstream success. The brand did experiment with retail expansion, including physical stores, but it eventually shifted direction. And by 2019, it had closed its Larchmont boutique and rebranded themselves as Thomas James LA. And with this rebrand, they repositioned themselves as a lifestyle-focused eyewear brand. But Toni ended up selling the brand in 2019. Now, I don't have any information on who she sold it to or if it still exists. I couldn't find anything, so I'm assuming it doesn't exist, but she sold it. She later dabbled in other projects and even started a venture fund, but 5 years later, the beauty industry was still calling to her. So in 2019, as soon as her 5-year non-compete clause expired, she decided to launch Bespoke Beauty Brands, which is an incubator and creator of makeup brands. So as of 2021, from what I can tell, the LA-based startup has launched 2 different brands of cosmetics. One with the designer Jason Wu, which you may have seen. That was sold at Target and CVS. I believe it still is. And also D2C, their own website. And she also launched another brand with little-known performer Kim Chi. You may have heard of her, a veteran of RuPaul's Drag Race, called Kim Chi Chic. Yes, Kim Chi Chic is a brainchild of Bespoke Beauty Brands. And these launches really marked a new chapter for Toni. She was no longer just trying to build a single breakout brand, but instead decided to experiment with different ways to capture the cultural shifts that shape beauty after NYX. So if you've seen Jason Wu, if you've seen Kim Chi Chic products, they're very different. They have different finishes, different audiences, different packaging, different messaging, both beautiful brands, but I wouldn't consider them the same by any means. And so it's really interesting to see that she's growing not just from one particular gap in the market, but instead noticing how each brand can bring their own story and culture to the makeup industry and where they can fit within this larger world of makeup. So that's where she's at currently. There are a few articles that I'm going to post in the show notes that I use for my sources, but there's longer interviews with her. If you're curious, she's an incredibly successful, smart woman. So if you're interested in reading more, feel free to check out the links in my show notes. So I'm going to end this rabbit hole with a quote from Toni about the most rewarding part of creating a business at such a young age. Quote, "I think that I was responsible for my own actions and my own future, and creating a life for myself where I'm financially independent. That's the biggest. We all talk about our freedom. I think to be truly free, you have to be financially independent. From your partner, from your parents, from your family, whatever that may be. You have to earn your money. That's the only way to be 100% free. I'm very proud of the fact that I have created that for myself." End quote. All right, we're into the iconic product section. We're going to run through their hero products, new and old. I have some of them here, so if you're watching on video, I'll be able to hold them up so you can see them. I also will be playing with them over on my Instagram and my Substack. All of those links are in the show notes as well if you want to check it out. But let's start from the original product category, the liners, 1999. These are what NYX launched with, the 6 eyeliners and the 12 lip liners, and this established the brand's reputation for professional quality pencils at affordable prices. And these pencils were ones that makeup artists truly did use. And I have to say, the lip liners are still some of my personal favorites. Then we have the Jumbo Eye Pencil, NYX's, I would say, breakout hero product in terms of virality. 2007 almost discontinued, almost got rid of this iconic product, and it became a favorite among makeup artists and beauty YouTubers, specifically the white shade Milk, as an eyeshadow base for helping to make pigments pop on the eyelid. And fan demand really helped keep it alive, and it remains one of the brand's most recognizable products to this day. Then they came out with the HD finishing powder. This was a professional makeup staple, a lightweight translucent powder designed to blur imperfections and create a photo-ready finish. And this product also helped reinforce NYX's reputation as a brand that would bring makeup artist techniques to everyday consumers. Then there was the Butter Gloss, which I have and I'm wearing today. This is the Butter Gloss, the gloss that became a generation-defining favorite, let's say. This is their non-sticky, and I can attest to that, comfortable gloss that helped bring glossy lips back before TikTok told us that it was a trend. And it has become one of the brand's most beloved products and remains one of their best-selling products worldwide. Then we had the Soft Matte Lip Cream, which, like I said, I think was way before the trends told us about it. A lightweight liquid lipstick that combined the trend of matte lips with a comfortable mousse-like texture. And then I don't remember this at all, but they came out with the Curve eyeliner. I think it was around 2012 or so. This was their answer to a common makeup struggle. If you've ever tried to do any kind of liquid eyeliner wing, you know the struggle. But this was a uniquely curved applicator that was designed to make liquid liner application easier. So I'll put a photo of it up here so you can see. Let me know if you remember this. I don't know if it still exists, but what a great idea. Again, kind of earlier than a lot of brands who now come out with kind of bendable eyeliners and things so you can kind of have different angles. This was long before people were doing this. We also have those setting sprays that I've talked about, which also helped bring makeup artists techniques, their long wear and finishing techniques specifically, to everyday beauty routines. And these also became staples during that full glam YouTube era as well, when we did like 4,000 steps to our makeup. This was essential during that full beat era of YouTube. And they also started creating more cream comfortable lipstick. So they have the liquid suede cream lipstick, which was the next evolution of their lip dominance. This was a creamy liquid lipstick that offered bold color with a softer matte finish. And this really came out during a time where we had a peak liquid lipstick craze, and they made something that was a little bit more comfortable than you would have found probably at any other drugstore price. The Highlight and Contour Pro palette, this again was a full glam YouTube era obsession. This was the height of the contour trend, and this was a customizable palette that really tapped into the YouTube beauty obsession with sculpted complexion looks. The Lip Lingerie was the answer to the nude lip era. This was a collection of matte liquid lipsticks inspired by the popularity of the neutral Your Lips But Better shades that really dominated the mid-2010s. And then, of course, the Epic Ink Liner, which is more of a modern NYX cult classic. This is a waterproof, highly pigmented liquid liner that became a favorite among both makeup artists and consumers for its precision and staying power. The Can't Stop Won't Stop foundation in 2018. This is the foundation that launched with 45 shades. And this was still a more full coverage foundation. So we were starting to enter the no makeup, but this was like right before when we were still doing kind of medium to full coverage foundations on a regular basis. But then with the Skin First makeup shift, they adapted with the Bare With Me Concealer Serum. This is a lightweight, hydrating complexion product that reflected the industry's move towards more natural finishes and skincare infused makeup. Then we started to get into some of the TikTok virals. The first one being, I believe this is one of the first ones, was the brow glue. This is a clear brow gel that's designed for the laminated brow look. So we moved away from the kind of block brows, like heavily sculpted, penciled in brows, to more of our natural hair, but laminated. And the brow glue really helped to showcase that trend. And again, it you could physically see it quickly, which is why it works well for short form content. The Fat Oil Lip Drip, which I have here. This is the hybrid oil lip gloss that I mentioned that tapped into the return of glossy lips, but also that skincare makeup hybrid. And fat oil has actually become a larger segment of the NYX products. They have their own umbrella, which I'll get into in a moment. But this was the one that started all the fat oil lip drip. And then, of course, continuing on with the lip trend, they came out with the Duck Plump High Pigment Plumping Lip Gloss. This is a bold, high shine lip plumper that was supported by a high profile Super Bowl ad featuring Cardi B. And then we move into the Buttermelt launches. So these are the Buttermelt blushes and bronzers. These have been on my list for a while. I think my niece had them before I did. I don't want to talk about it. But these are beautifully high pigmented but buttery textured powders that, again, reflected the social media driven demand for the bold color payoff with a very blendable formula. Also, I have to say the packaging for this is also it feels heavy. It feels like it's not drugstore. The embossing on it is beautiful. It has a very smooth rounded edges. If you're not a packaging person, you probably don't care, but it just has a good like heft to it. It kind of feels like it's similar to like a Rare Beauty compact. Like it has like a good robustness to it. And then we have the Lip IV, of course, the hydrating gloss stain, the K-Beauty influenced hydrating, lightweight, long-lasting lip stain, which many people absolutely love and won a New Beauty Award again in 2025 for Best Lip Stain. And also real quick, I haven't tried it yet, but I do want to call out the fact that they just came out with body care and it's under their fat oil umbrella. And they have body butters, body oils. They have a fragrance and hair mist. Everything I believe is under $20. If you tried it, let me know. I'm so curious to hear a review on it. But again, kind of expanding the brand under a name that people already are familiar with, the fat oil name, but also meeting the trends. Body care is one of the biggest trends at the moment. Fragrance, like hair and body mist in particular, is becoming a very big moment. And so they're meeting those trends head on, but still keeping it under the NYX vibe. And then lastly, just a few little fun facts I thought you might enjoy. Their soft matte lip cream, apparently when this was released, one tube was sold every 4 seconds. Also, a fun fact I noticed in my research is that early NYX stores actually featured beauty bars where shoppers could go and select specific tutorials and then try to recreate those looks so that they could create more of an interactive experience than just simply shopping at a traditional makeup counter. And again, this is years before the interactive customer experience that's kind of become the name of the game now in the industry. They did this in like 2015. So again, very ahead of their time, but also connected to the consumer and letting them play and try products and try and use them in different ways. That's, again, they've had that be a part of their ethos since the beginning and have included it into their stores as well. And lastly, if you didn't notice, the NYX name on all the packaging says NYX Professional Makeup. And this was on purpose. This wasn't just branding. It was a perception. It was a way to signal that affordable products could still have credibility with makeup artists. And the brand wanted consumers to feel like they were buying tools specifically used by makeup professionals. So this name is more than just, oh, that sounds good. There was a goal and a reason behind it, and I'd say they achieved it. So I'm going to end this episode with a quote from Toni about the success of NYX. When I started NYX, I wanted to succeed like my parents, albeit by doing things in my own way. In turn, for the next generation of founders, particularly female founders, I would encourage them to embrace the spirit of what I learned more than the specific actions. Find your own passion, commit to it deeply, and never lose sight of how high you aim to go. Those were the Chronicles of NYX. Let me know what you think of the brand. Are you a jumbo eye pencil fan? Have you already tried the Buttermelt bronzer? Am I just the last person on the planet to try this? Let me know your thoughts. I always love to hear it. You can reach out to me either in the comment section or over on Instagram. My email's below. Feel free to reach out just to say hi too. I love chatting with people, so I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you haven't already, please don't forget to like, rate, subscribe, share. All of that really helps the podcast. us. I would greatly appreciate it. And I will see you next time on the Cosmetic Chronicles.